who's actually going to get real value out of a handheld 3D scanner like this, and who would be better off putting their money toward a different tool. If you're wondering whether the Revopoint MetroX Pro bundle is worth the price for everyday makers, hobbyists, or small shop engineers, stick around. The answer isn't as simple as yes or no. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's talk about the hesitation most buyers feel. A 3D scanner promises to turn any object into a digital model with a tap, but the reality is that you can end up with a cloud of points that need a lot of cleaning, or you might discover the device can't handle certain finishes without extra steps. The biggest risk is spending a few $100s and then realizing the workflow doesn't fit the way you actually work in the studio or workshop. That's why I spent a good chunk of time looking at how the MetroX Pro is set up on a typical maker's desk, how the software talks to the hardware, and what hidden trade-offs come with its industrial-grade claims. The MetroX Pro isn't a consumer-grade toy scanner. It's marketed as a portable, full-color solution with 0.01 mm precision for scanning modes and a one-click automatic turntable. Those are impressive numbers on paper, but what matters is how they translate when you're, say, trying to reproduce a small mechanical gear for a 3D-printed replacement, or when you need to capture the fine curvature of a vintage watch case for archival purposes. If you're a product designer who needs to scan prototypes quickly, the 4 scanning modes become a practical advantage. For instance, the dark surface mode lets you scan a matte black drone frame without the usual glare that would force you to spray the object with a powder coating. I saw a maker who needed to reverse engineer a broken drone propeller. With the dark mode he got a clean mesh in under 5 minutes, and the software automatically stitched the slices together. That kind of time saving is a real strength when you're on a deadline. The shiny surface mode is equally handy for metal parts that reflect a lot of light. Imagine you're repairing a small gear on a vintage camera. Most entry-level scanners would struggle, but the MetroX Pro's industrial-grade laser can capture the specular highlights without needing a matte spray. The result is a mesh that preserves the gear's tooth profile accurately enough to print a functional replica on a high-resolution SLA printer. The bundled laser safety goggles are not just an afterthought, they're essential when you're scanning in a typical workshop where stray reflections can be a safety hazard. That inclusion alone saves you from buying a separate compliance kit, which is a small but tangible value add for anyone who already has a 3D printer and safety gear. Now, let's get into who should actually consider buying this bundle. If you run a small fabrication shop, do regular reverse engineering, or need to scan objects that are either very reflective or very dark, the MetroX Pro gives you a level of precision that most consumer scanners can't match. It also shines when you need on-the-go scanning. The handheld form factor means you can walk around a larger object, like a sculpture, and capture it in sections without moving the piece. For educators teaching additive manufacturing, the Turntable feature lets students see the full 360 capture process in real time, reinforcing the concept of point clouds turning into printable models. On the flip side, if your 3D printing hobby is limited to casual prints from existing online models, you'll likely find the MetroX Pro overkill. The price point sits well above the basic handheld options like the structure sensor or the Creality CR scanner. Those lower-cost tools can handle simple, low-detail objects such as figurines or household items, and they come with a more plug-and-play software experience. If you only need occasional scans of non-critical objects, those alternatives will save you both money and the learning curve that comes with the MetroX Pro's more advanced software suite. Speaking of the learning curve, that's one of the practical weaknesses worth flagging. The software is powerful. It does automatic mesh cleanup, color merging, and can export directly to STL or OBJ, but it isn't as intuitive as the Scan and Go apps you get on a phone. New users should expect to spend a couple of evenings watching tutorials and tweaking settings to avoid common pitfalls like missing data on steep angles or excessive noise on glossy surfaces. The bundle does include a quick start guide, but real mastery comes from trial and error. Battery life is another hidden trade-off. The handheld unit runs on a rechargeable pack that lasts roughly 2 hours of continuous scanning. That's fine for a short session, but if you're planning a day-long field scan of, say, automotive parts in a garage, you'll need to keep a spare charger or power bank on hand. The turntable itself plugs into a separate power source, so you end up juggling a couple of cords. Not a deal breaker, but something to keep in mind if